the bondage is good. Because whenever you're chained up, he's saying, hey, come here, stay away from that devil over there. Stay away from that trouble over there. But when you're slave to something else, it's like the devil's pulling you with him. So there's slavery can be a good thing if we're slaves to Christ, because in everything he is looking out for the best of us. And in this case, we get our debts paid off, where we don't have to do anything. And as a result of it, as a result of our gratitude, we pay back Jesus by working for him, by doing things for him. But not if we're lazy Christians, right? Now, this is a lot of background information, I know. And in this slavery, it results in freedom, believe it or not. And it also results in victory, because through Christ you attain victory. Through Christ you attain freedom, because you no longer are bound to sin. You are no longer a slave to sin. You're now a slave to Christ, who has every good thing set aside for you. Right? And so what's the application to this? How do we, as slaves of Christ, glorify God in all that we do? Because that's what we're talking about today, is that we are to do everything for the glory of God. And a lot of times preachers will say, you should do everything for God's glory, and like they give this good sermon and everybody claps for them, but then they leave the people hopeless because they don't tell them how. And so today I'm going to tell you how. The first way that we're going to glorify God in all that we do is simply by resting. When I got burnt out, I needed to step back and just simply rest, both spiritually and physically. I mean, I was tired. How many of y'all have been tired before in your life and you're just like, I need to step back, right? According to scientific research, there are benefits to resting. And this is actually talking about physical rest, sleeping, right? One benefit is it reduces stress. It restores the body and lowers the heart rate. The second is it reduces inflammation and risk for heart disease. The third, it makes you more creative as a person. The second point was it reduces inflammation and risk for heart disease.
So I'm dead.
The fourth way is improves short-term memory.
What?
So if you're trying to take a test, get some sleep. And the fifth way is, y'all ready for this? Whenever you sleep, you're more productive. Which is weird. And Shawshank Redemption, how many of y'all have ever seen that movie before? Never seen it. Wow, we gotta watch that. In Shawshank Redemption, there's this old man Brooks, that's the name of the character in the movie. He says, the world's done, went out and got itself in a big dang hurry. And it's so true. You look outside and everybody's in a huge rush. I'll tell you, when I'm rushing personally, I'm always stressed out. It's always on the go. I have to fulfill this, I have to fulfill my family, God, church, I have to fulfill school, I have to fulfill chores, I have to keep the house up. You have to fulfill all these things. You're always in a rush and it causes you to stress, it causes anxiety, and yet we're not doing what we're supposed to do, because God intends for us not to be stressed out and always anxious. He intends for us to be rested. That's why he says on the seventh day, have a day of rest. And I wasn't planning on saying it. But that day of rest can be any day. It doesn't have to be Sunday.
You want to for
Tuesday, guys.
In the Bible it says, Jesus is speaking and he says, come to me all who labor and are heavy burdened, and I will give you rest. When you lean on Jesus, he will give you rest, and this rest is a rest that will completely restore you. You can't have restoration without the word rest. When Jesus says he wants you to be fully restored, he wants you to be fully rested. And so when we rest on him, come to me all who are labor and heavy burdened, he's saying, no, I don't want you to do it all by yourself, because I'm here, right here for you. I can carry the weight of the world on my shoulders. I've already done it once. I'm asking you to give me all of your burdens, because when we rest on Jesus, we're restored and more likely to do things for his glory, because we're finally freshly walking new. Second way that we can do things for the glory of God is simply by praying. I remember during that season of my life where I was just wanting to eat everything out the window, I was like done with everything. I said, you know what, God, I need to get on my knees and pray. And And I'm telling you, I really legit would. I would get on my knees for about 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes a day, right before the day started, and I would pray. Nothing but me and God. And a lot of people are like, I don't know what to say. Well, tell them whatever you're thinking. And whatever concern, whenever you pray to God, it changes the dynamics of your whole day. And when I did that, when I prayed to God and I started praying every single day, my day was new. And I had my rest and I was refreshed. And that prayer got me in sync with what God's will was. And I walked that day with confidence because now I'm walking in God's will and not my own. And so when you pray, it makes you able to walk in confidence. It makes you more restored, which makes you more able to do everything into His glory. And the third way to do everything into His glory is to worship. Every single thing that you do is an act of worship. Everything, whether good or bad. And so I want you to imagine doing something bad and saying, you know what, God, I'm worshiping you right now. While you're doing something bad. The person who created you and everything that we're walking on, and you're doing something bad as an act of worship. Imagine that. No, we're to do everything into His glory so that whenever it comes for us to worship Him, we're worshiping Him with our all. And generally, when we worship Him with our all, He is more pleased and more willing to bless us. Every time I find myself being lazy, I'm convicted to do everything with all of my soul because I'm like, you know what? I need to stop being lazy. I find myself being lazy and I'm like, I'm completely tired, but you know what, God? I'm worshiping you in a way that you don't deserve to be worshiped. And so I find myself convicted by the Holy Spirit, and that's what I would encourage y'all to seek for, is conviction whenever you find yourself being lazy in a certain aspect of life. Yeah, we're busy, but if you set aside time to pray, if you set aside time to rest, and you set aside time to worship, then it'll give you more time to do everything into His glory. Now, there's also a consequence of the service that we have, and it's found in verse 24 and 25. And it says this: "Since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward, it is the Lord Christ you are serving. Anyone who does wrong will repay for their wrongs, and there is no favoritism." Whether you do good or bad, there's going to be a consequence. Good consequence or bad consequence. And so today the decision is yours as we're going to close out. And I would ask y'all to bow your heads and close your eyes. The decision is yours today, and it's that, will you give God your everything? Will you do everything into His glory? And all that you do, whether it's picking up the trash outside and you see that extra tiny piece and you're like, man, I don't want to get it because I'm already filled with hands. Are you going to go back and grab that extra piece and do everything for His glory? Or are you going to say, you know what, I'm too lazy right now? And everything you do unto the glory of God. And if you don't do that, it tells us right here clearly in verse 24, "Since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward, it is the Lord Christ you are serving. Anyone who does wrong will be repaid for their wrongs." If you don't fully give unto Jesus, then Jesus will repay you by not fully giving back to you. And so know that when you give everything unto Him, with all your might, that He will bless you back and give everything back to you